And another thing that I'd like to point out to people that you've got to look at the world now, especially if you're a young male or even a young female, in terms of being anti-fragile. And, the world is a very tumultuous place. I can go through and talk about charts, macroeconomic charts, but even from a standpoint of personal freedom and liberty. If I would have told you in 2019 that the global governments were going to lock you in a cage for a year, you'd have said that you're absolutely out of your mind. Well, okay, we saw that. And they're taking away more of our personal freedoms and liberties. And everyone asks me, well, George, what's the perfect country to go to if you want to maximize your personal freedom and liberty? And I say there is none, because every single country is run by a socialist. You name me the country right now in the world that's not run by a megalomaniac or a socialist / Marxist with this global agenda. There isn't any, right? So I think you need to be very nimble from a standpoint of your lifestyle. And I would argue, I'm probably not a minimalist, because when I rent a place, for 3 or 4 months, it's pretty.
You're more of a minimalist than I am.
You're
I
not
got a
a little
huge guitar collection.
It's pretty extravagant.
But do you have hobbies?
That's what I asked him before.
Because here's something I've realized about myself. Because, dude, I'm looking at like a little older version of myself. I pray to get in George's position, X amount of years down the road. But I view myself as a minimalist. I don't have a car.
Yeah.
Okay. I rent my apartment. I don't buy all my
You buy
assets.
groceries and cook for yourself?
Oh, all Instacart.
Or do you just go and get...
Instacart. I mean, I don't like everything. Like people are like I don't have hobbies. I don't go skateboarding. I don't do rock climbing. I don't have a card collection. I don't play the guitar. I like to do a few things. I like to make money because that gives me economic freedom to go wherever I want to go. More than anything, I like to kick it with my boys and laugh, have a good time and learn. And quite frankly, I like to hang out with beautiful women and have a good time. And I have a bar in South Beach and I invite them there. That's what I like to do. And I don't have to own anything to do that.
You're right.
It's kind of like what you're saying is like you don't have a guitar collection. You don't have any of this kind of stuff. Explain why you're kind of a minimalist, but not full-on minimalist.
Well, again, it gives you that freedom. I think people need to remember that we're not vegetables. So what my point is, to say that, well, I'm going to go to Miami or I'm going to go to XYZ country and set up, I'm going to plant roots there and I'm going to be there for the next 10 years or 20 years. You're living like a tree. Why would anyone want to do that? What I do is I say, I feel like spending the next 3 months or 6 months in Medellin. That's what I'm going to do. Where do I want to go after that? I don't know. I'm leaving my options open because I'm not a vegetable. And also, in today's environment, I think that's very important from that standpoint of being anti-fragile. I think in the past, you could select a country and say, okay, 5 years, 10 years from now, the country's probably going to look like this. But not even with the United States. I mean, look at what happened in Australia. They set these quarantine camps. Look at what happened
that was one of the
to
worst
Canada.
lockdown places.
Absolutely. Canada, which you would have said, in 2019 was a pretty quote-unquote free country. So going back to the minimalist thing, the way I prefer to live is, let's use Medellin as an example. I spend maybe 4 or 5 months a year there, but I'm not locked down to it. If I don't want to spend time in Medellin, I won't do it. But I've got a staff of people. So I've got a driver. I've got a personal chef. I've got a gal that does all the laundry. I mean, I don't lift a finger to do anything. I've got my assistant down there. So I'm literally living like a billionaire down there.
In Medellin, of course.
But that said, I could pack everything that I do own into a couple duffel bags and go to, go to Hungary
in Fort Lauderdale.
Or go to St. Bart's for 3 or 4 months.
Can I ask you, a very expensive place I've been.
One of
very
the
expensive.
most.
Yes,
Yeah.
I broke up with my ex because we're not going back there. But let me push back, if you will, because there's going to be people saying, well, George, hell yeah, I want to do that, but I got a wife and kids, bro.
Yeah, right.
So what would you say to those people?
So for those people, I would set up a plan B to make sure that you can maximize the amount of freedom in your life playing the hand that you're dealt or that you've got right now. So sure, you might not be able to pick up and go to St. Bart's in 2020 like I did just because it was the only place that didn't have lockdowns. But what you can do is you can have an RV in your driveway. So if we do get riots and social unrest, which I think we'll get more of in the future, not less of, then you can pack your family up there. You can go to pine top if you're in Arizona, as an example, and just relax. You got some way to get out of the line of fire, maybe literally. And so that gives you a little bit more of that freedom. Are you going to be able to live, like a Doug Casey or a George Gammon? Maybe not. But it's far better than what your friends are doing, to where if the riots come through your neighborhood, you're just stuck there. You're going to lock the door and maybe go down to the basement and just keep your fingers crossed. That's just, you're an ostrich burying your head in the sand. And I don't think that's a prudent way to live, going into what I think is a fourth turning that'll last until probably 2030 or so.
And you talk about, essentially what you're saying is figure out a way to get out of the rat race. Figure out a way to unplug yourself from the matrix, to use a red pill example, so you can be flexible. Flexibility is the new American dream or the world dream. So you could just kind of go where you want to. We can get on a flight and be anywhere. This is like, we're in such unprecedented times.
Yes.
And you can make money from it. This is
on your computer, on your phone.
I can sit here and talk about, I can give you 100 reasons why the economy is absolutely screwed. But I can also give you 100 reasons as to why kids and people without any money have it better than anyone in human history. I mean, I remember, I'm old enough that when I was an entrepreneur, you would actually have to have $500,000 and to set up a brick and mortar location and do all these things to start a business. It was a huge financial risk. I mean, massive. And for what? To make $1 million a year or whatever. Where now you can just buy you wouldn't even have to have something like this.
You go on to Shopify, you just start a podcast, whatever.
With my whiteboard,
a couple $1,000
videos,
you're good to go.
Oh, not even.
Laptop
not
with a
even.
webcam installed.
Yeah, most of my interviews I just do right off my laptop. Sometimes I get fancy and have that little mixer and everything. But the whiteboard videos that really move the needle the most, I just have a little whiteboard, a couple cameras. I mean, maybe $1,000 worth of equipment. And if you look at kind of the monetization strategy from those YouTube videos, I'm making almost or maybe even more money with that type of little business model than I made having to put down, $500,000 and a 10-year lease on a brick and mortar location and hiring all these employees and babysitting and all this responsibility. And you could not have done that back in the late 90s or the early 2000s. You can do that now, and that's a huge advantage.
The most, I guess, vibrant example of that is the taxi industry. You used to literally have to put down $1 million for a medallion in New York City to be able to have the right to drive a taxi. And now you sign up, you have a little car, boom, you're on Uber.
Yeah.
The gatekeeper is now gone. So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another, or if you want to watch the entire Soscast, click right here.